So, Maya, thank you very much for including Xeeva, Milan as well. So, I live in Washington, D.C., and I actually came to Dubai because I'm having a major birthday. So my sisters are here too, and you'll get to meet my sisters as well, but as we were coming to Dubai, my aunt said, hey, let's have a dinner. So I'm very excited about being here. You can see why I'm dressed up. I'm dressed up because I'm planning on going to dinner to celebrate my birthday. So thank you for having me. So Milan, I think, said a lot of good points, and so did Mayank about digital transformation. A little bit about Xeeva and my background, because you don't see too many female tech CEOs, but I have been CEO of several tech companies, procurement the latest, and just like Mayank and Milan, they started Insight Plum during the pandemic. I started as Xeeva's CEO during the pandemic as well, and we are backed by private equity, a lot of private equity money in the United States, obviously. But as Milan was saying, we took a different approach, and from a different approach perspective, you saw all of the organizations that Insight Plum works with today. Xeeva did focus in on data, and to me, it's a data journey, and it's data first. And when you think about spend data, if your spend data is bad from a procurement perspective, it's going to affect your cost centers, it's going to affect your budgets, you're not going to be able to make critical decisions. And at the end of the day, from a sourcing perspective, your sourcing is not going to be effective as well. So we took a different approach. I'm going to talk about it in a minute, but let me take a second and actually introduce the team that you're going to hear from. Chad Hill is our Chief Revenue Officer. I'm not sure where Chad went. He stepped out. Chad and I have worked together at other organizations, and you'll hear from Aparna Gude, and Aparna Gude is our Chief Product Officer. Aparna and I have worked together at other organizations as well. So as I came into Xeeva to be CEO, I asked both of them to join me through this transformation, through the changes. Who knew that there would be a global pandemic, and we're just slowly getting out of it. So before I go into my presentation, what I really love to talk about is, let me just get through this, about you guys and what you're seeing within your own organizations. How many of you, show of hands, believe that you have good data within your ERPs? No? How many of you actually, since you're mid-sized organizations, that's the other approach, how many of you actually have an ERP that you're using today? But the data is not good. And from a management perspective and a procurement perspective, how many of you believe that the suppliers through the pandemic that you have are still intact and are still providing the goods and services that you need? Someone? How many of you have suffered suppliers actually going out of business, and from a risk perspective? Yeah, so you've seen kind of a risk issue, which is kind of what we've seen as well. It's the other approach that I'll talk about. Xeeva was started in 2014. As Mayank said, we are a global company. We are in 45 countries. From a 45 country perspective, we also took a different approach with suppliers, and I'll explain that as well. The other thing is, I heard in the back of the room when I was sitting there, with the ERPs, just from a show of hands, how long did it take you to get your ERP up? Was it more than 6 months when you were implementing your ERP? Yeah. More than 6 months? How about from a year perspective? Was it more than a year for anybody? More than a year? Anybody 3 years where they were going through an integrator? Yeah, that's what we've seen. Speaking to, I think, coming in as CEO, I've spoken to 400, 500, 600 CPOs, and the time to value, as we talk about return on investment, seems to be long. Just giving you an idea of who Xeeva is. Again, we're not from a Coupa, Ariba. We'll talk about the difference between the ones that have been around 20 years to Xeeva. We've gotten recognized because, again, we start with the data is the journey. We also, from a product perspective, I'm very product focused, and so is Aparna. So it's all about the product, all about time to value, and all about ROI. How quickly can we take you through the journey? How can it be continuous? But how can we, from our approach, get you up and running quickly? And when we think about mid-sized organizations, it's very different through the digital transformation. And that's the approach, and you can see that we've made some disruption. So I put this up here just to, and I know Maya kind of touched on it, and so did Milan. There's so many things that are happening. So think about DC. We have so many political issues going on right now. Roe v. Wade, you have all the gun lobbyists, all of the disruptions. You have inflation. If anyone's looking at the market, I joke, one day I feel rich, the next day I feel very poor. And I believe everybody in this room probably feels the same way. It just depends upon what is going on globally from a market perspective, and inflation is affecting everyone. And I'm assuming, show of hands as well, with your leadership, your CEOs, how many of you seen your top line shrink from a revenue perspective? No impact whatsoever with the pandemic, with what you're selling, goods and services? So you've seen it. How about from an operational expense standpoint? Milan kind of touched on it as well. You're seeing suppliers increasing their fees, and you don't know they're increasing their fees. So it comes back to the data. If you don't have insight to your data, what we're seeing with other clients from a contractual standpoint, if you don't have insight into your data, you have no idea, even if you have a contract, if they've increased your fees. And we've seen a 30% increase across the board. So if you're not looking at your suppliers, that's an issue. The other thing from a supplier perspective, how many of you work with more than 100 suppliers? 100, okay, a lot of hands. How many of you work with more than 1,000 suppliers? No? You do. On average, what we've seen with the data, even in the mid-market, there's over 3,000 to 10,000 suppliers that organizations are using. And if you're a global organization, even if you're in the mid-market, from that standpoint, there's no way you can manage all those suppliers if you have lack of visibility as well. So when you think about Xeeva's approach, before I turn it over to Aparna to go through the demo, we did take a different approach, data first, but our whole mission is to use the technology to connect organizations to suppliers globally. When you think about Xeeva from a technology stack perspective, everyone says, and Mike and I talk about it from a procurement platform, it all starts with the data. You have to bring the data in, you have to cleanse it, you have to normalize it. And what Xeeva has done with the data is from company 1 to company 100, we have a huge database. We have a database of items, we have a database of suppliers. One of our customers is Walmart. I always use Walmart because everybody knows Walmart globally. In any given year, we go ahead and we enrich their data, and it's added to our database. And what happens is when we get your spend data, if we've added attributes for Walmart through our spend analytics platform, you get the benefit. If we, from a sustainability, from a DEI, from an ESG perspective, if we have that information on a supplier and you need that information, it's globally available to you. And if we've done it for another company, you get the benefit as well. But we've got a network effect. And our goal here is for the mid-market is to help, not to charge a lot, not to take a year, but to take the data in, if we've seen it, give you the ability to have it enriched. If you have enriched data, you can source better. We also, from a data journey, we tell you from the first time we get your data, how good your data is. And it comes back to, from an ERP perspective, is your data good? I saw nobody said they thought their data was good. But we tell you through the journey how good it is, and we rank it for you. We tell you if it's good enough to put in the catalog, good enough to source, if you can, from a taxonomy perspective, if you can classify it, and the bad data. And the thing about the bad data is it gives you the opportunity to improve it. And that's the journey that Xeeva takes you through the process. I'm going to now turn it over to Aparna. She's going to go through a demo.